Hello everyone, welcome to the Totally Well Show. I'm your host, Joyce Strong. The Totally Well Show is a place where we get curious, ask questions, and explore everything to do with health, wellness, fitness, and all the things it takes to help you live the highest quality, most fulfilling life. I'm excited today to have two guests at the table who are experts in essential oils. One of the things I love to use myself, but I don't know as much about them as I'd like to. I guess that's something you can always learn more about. So welcome today to Eileen Ladwig and to Cindy Kilday. Thank you so much for coming today. And I'm curious first about what got you interested in essential oils. Let me start with Cindy.
Mine was anti-chemical. I started to replace all of my cleaning supplies. I just wanted a healthier environment in my home, and I threw out all my chemical cleaners. Made everything on my own. Even everybody says, even toilet cleaner? Yes, even toilet cleaner.
So why did you care about that? Why did that come on your radar to begin with?
There's asthma in my family. My husband and daughter have asthma.
Yeah.
And they've never grown out of it. So, I suppose I should have started a long time ago when my daughter was young. But I just, essential oils kind of came up on my radar probably 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I decided to replace all my cleaning supplies. And
so you had symptoms of illness in your home, and as you explored, maybe information came to you through the internet or however, you started to see, hi, this is a pathway I haven't tried yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I was reluctant myself because I've used bleach to clean everything, and I was a little reluctant, and I am thrilled. I am absolutely thrilled. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. I went from cleaning to, headaches, anxiety, everything. Now I use them for everything, not just cleaning.
Yeah, well, we're going to we'll get more into some detail in that in just a bit, because those are where my questions are. And Eileen, what about you? You've been doing it a little bit longer, I think.
Yeah, about 7 years.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because, when I met Cindy, it was like, oh my gosh, it is really interesting how each person gets introduced to whatever.
Yeah.
And for myself, I was like running the other way. A friend of mine had, I studied dried herbs at the same place she had for a number of years, and I kept running into her, and we got to be friends. And she's like, oh, you've got to check out these essential oils. And I'm like, at that time, everything in our house was unscented for some of the reasons Cindy actually met. Just some of the chemicals and things bothered my husband and myself. And I also taught yoga. People had given me lovely candles, lotions. They always gave me a headache.
Yeah.
And I just thought, no interest. But I did have really horrible allergies. I work with infants. Nobody wants to see you drip on their baby. And so finally I've tried my friend's essential oils, and it was pretty amazing. I don't know if anyone's experienced like that itchiness you can get in your ears, the roof of your mouth when you have things happening in the spring or fall especially. Mm-hmm. And it would just drive me crazy. And, so when she finally did, tie me down and have me try these things, it was like the airways were opening, that itchiness that just drive me nuts at night, just like calming down. And, people would say, well, geez, why didn't you just go get your allergy shot? My neighbor gets weekly allergy shots. And I just said, I don't want to do that, know. And so it's been a wonderful thing, and like Cindy was saying, there's so many uses, and it's been a fun exploration and journey.
That you bring up a good point. I just saw an article, I think it was on Medium, that web magazine that people write blog on, and it had to do with the promotion of wellness at the expense of people who have disposable income, and how it can be abused. And so I can see why all of us, and I just to confirm, I kind of had the same feeling in the beginning when I started to use essential oils myself, that it was a scam or a gimmick or something that was just trying to get my money, and it can be. And so it's really nice to have experts here who know what they're talking about, who've taken the time to be trained on it, and are not trying to oversell people on it. It's really more education on how you can use it, brand agnostic. And so I want to be sensitive to that. I'm glad you mentioned the resistance. That's really good to hear. So
And resistance is good. It just means you need more education about it.
that's right.
And and then decide after you've been educated.
So let's get into some detail. What are essential oils used for? I'm going to ask Eileen to answer that. Well, you can chime in, but
Okay.
Yeah, people ask me that, and it's just so interesting because literally you'll hear I have an oil for that. Like you see that little quote around a lot. And really anything physical, emotional, some people would even say spiritual, there seems to be a plant on the planet. And I remember when I was studying herbology, and one of the guys I've listened to on YouTube, he'd always say, why should we not be surprised that on the planet there is a plant to support every part of our body? And so I guess he was kind of right because essential oils come from plants, and there does seem to be something to support every part of our body.
And I have to add in, this is something I had never considered, pets. We have a puppy.
yeah.
And who sometimes when it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and we are ready to settle down and either read or watch TV, and she is still wanting us to play. And so I just rubbed a little essential oils on her ears, and my skeptic husband looked, and he said, "Oh, look, she's asleep." So there are a variety of
Which
uses.
oil do you use for that?
Lavender. It's pet safe. And
Yeah.
not every oil is pet safe. But
I hear lavender is a good one for calming down, even with children. Like I think I had a spray that was called. It was it doesn't matter the brand, but it was called. I think it had to do with ghosts or boogeyman or something.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so something a
Yeah.
calming effect.
Yes, a lot of people will make them for their children, and anti-monster spray.
A monster maybe.
Yes,
yeah.
they'll just put
yeah.
lavender in there.
Yeah. And I'm just even thinking juniper berry, because that is one that I've used with kids for night terrors,
Okay.
which was just interesting to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So allergies you've mentioned, cleaning you've mentioned. What other kinds of?
Oh, well, I have to mention sore joints and muscles, because really after my friend had helped me with these lifelong allergies, the next thing I had messed up my knees in 1984, and she was like, I want you to try this morning and night before and after you work out. Give it a month. You had these for how many years? It's not going to disappear overnight. And within a month, I'm going up the stairs, and literally it was like, oh my gosh, my knees aren't talking to me like this is pretty cool.
Pain and inflammation.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So what kinds of oils would work for that?
Oh, peppermint is really good.
Frankincense,
And
copaiba.
frankincense is very good.
Frankincense is and I'm not trying to categorize it, but frankincense is almost a
Oh, well, I'll say when in doubt. When those phrases,
multi-uses. Yes.
when in
Yeah.
doubt, use frankincense.
Yes.
But yeah, it just can support everything from mood to inflammation to memory. We've been doing a lot with elderly and memory care. They refer to it as the best transitioning oil. So when my friend was having her baby, and she's like, which oil should I take to the hospital? I'm like, take frankincense, put just a dab, a little dab, put it on the soft spot in that baby's skull. And it's beautiful. And the same thing when my father was in hospice transitioning over, that was what, we diffused just to calm the care workers, the families. And
So
glad
just to be
mention
clear, helping our listeners, when you're talking about transitioning, birth, death,
that.
that's what
Yes
you
and
mean by
yes, yeah.
transitioning.
Yes and yes. Yeah, the whole range of life, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to jump around a little bit.
Sure.
One of the questions that I've learned a little bit about was how we interact with the essential oils. So people, how do you use them? People will come in and they'll say, how do you use them? What do you do with them? And I know it depends on how they're made, and I do want to get into that a little bit, because being selective about the oils, they're not all made the same. There's certain grades and things you need to know to make sure you're getting a good quality. but how do we get them into our body or interacting with our body?
Okay. Well, I'll start with the first way is, I think, is probably, I'm going to say one of the more common, or it is more common to me, is diffusing.
And can you define? I know you say
Yes.
it all the
Yep.
time, but define what diffusing
So
means.
you can get a diffuser anywhere. It's a little vessel, and you put water in it. Put whatever oil you want, cover it up, and it will. It's almost like cold steam. It's almost like a vaporizer, humidifier.
Yeah, kind
So
of
is
like
it
that.
electric? Is it?
It's electric.
And you put the water right into the.
Water.
I mean, the oil right into the water.
Yeah, you put the oil in the water.
Yeah.
Put the cover back on, and it's got a little hole that the
So it heats a bit.
The mist will come out. Doesn't heat at all.
No.
No, they're cold.
Cool mist diffusers.
Yeah, cold mist.
Okay.
And by diffusing, I mean it does so many things. Your house
Then it kind
room
of
will
mists
smell
into the
beautiful.
air. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And actually, I was talking to Eileen about this. I have eliminated all the candles in my house. Once I got into oils, I did a little research and found out that the bigger companies use paraffin wax, and they use paraffin because it gets hotter and it releases a lot more smell, makes candles more effective. Paraffin is also linked to asthma and cancer. So, we get rid of all our candles, so we diffuse all the time. But there's also so many more benefits to diffusing. The smells and the oils react to the receptors in your brain, and it's the limbic system, right? The limbic system, which is called the emotional brain, and that's what produces these emotions, these relaxed feelings, or it's amazing what it does. But it's all in the olfactory nerves.
And so triggering your body to do some healing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Relaxing. Yes.
So what's another way to interact?
Well, I just want to add to that
sure.
because diffusing is another. If I've just run into so many people who they love the essential oils, but maybe their husband or their wife is not so crazy about it, right?
Got it, yeah.
And the diffusing is such a lovely way to be able to just purify the air, help shift the mood, but not be like, "Come on, honey, this is gonna be great for you. Try it,"
Yes.
And around the holidays too, it's awesome. Those tiny little molecules just land in everything and disinfecting doorknobs and handles and all of these things you wouldn't even think about. So, yeah, I love diffusing. And some people think, well, I have to get a diffuser, but I mean, you could also just put a dab in your hand and inhale it, and that's also diffusing. Right?
That's true.
So,
That is true.
But yeah, so diffusing is wonderful, or aromatic, I guess, use, smelling them.
Yes.
And then topical use, very, very common. And, when you're working with something like a sore, I was thinking, different parts of my body have been sore over the years, but sore shoulder or knee or whatever, you want to apply them topically so they can get right into the area.
So you dilute them
healing.
in a.
They call it carrier. That's a great question. Often
Yeah.
people are like, well, what's a carrier oil? And I never, a friend of mine who bartends, and she said, well, if something says you can use it neat, it's like it's straight up. You don't have to dilute it. If you're going to dilute it, you want to use what they call a carrier oil, so it isn't volatile, right? So the essential oils, you can smell them because these little molecules are coming up. So the carrier oils could be like, we use a liquid, what they call fractionated coconut oil, because it's just it's really light, so the essential oils can move through it real easily to get into the skin. But it's great too because it's unscented, because we don't want to mess with all the lovely properties that he was talking about in terms of supporting our brain and our emotional health. So that's what we use. So, if you're in a pinch, my son was using something for his cold. He was at college, and he was making what we call a cold shot, and he touched his eye with oregano, or the area by his eye had a little oregano on it, which is very hot. And he did not have our beautiful liquid coconut oil, but he had butter. And what a smart, I was so proud of him, because it was butter has fat, and it's just
Wouldn't have thought of that. That's wonderful. Yes.
Spanish or, spicy foods, you want to have something with fat to calm it down. And so that's long answer to your question, but yeah, carrier oil would be used when you're using them topically, typically.
So can you use things like almond oil or jojoba?
You know, you certainly can in some of the recipes for facial things. I just helped a gal the other day for varicose veins. We made up a recipe, and it actually called for shea butter and jojoba and, gosh, I think vitamin E, and then the essential oils. And so you definitely can, but just as a, I guess, a guideline in general, you're going to try to stick away from oils that have scents.
Okay, got that. Just something that came up this last couple weeks with one of my clients, scar tissue. When you mentioned vitamin E, she was like using vitamin E as part of that.
Yeah, beautiful.
What do you have any recipes or suggestions if you have a scar that you're trying to minimize?
Well, there's a, go ahead.
No,
So
I'm trying to think. I've looked at there are so many different recipes.
Yeah.
And I think what's important to know is an oil that works for you may not be as effective for your friend.
Okay.
So and that's especially in terms
Really
of,
good.
I have a girlfriend whose son was really suffering from anxiety. And I said, okay, so, and there are very popular blends. So I made her probably one of the more popular blends. And she said it didn't work for him. And I said, okay, that doesn't mean that oils are out. It just means, you know, it didn't work for him. It's like getting a prescription sometimes. You know, things don't react to your body the way they react to somebody else's body.
Yeah, we're all unique.
Yeah, that is such a great point, Cindy, because sometimes people, you know, because lavender, for example, worked amazing for your sleep, and you're like, oh, this is amazing, and they try it, like, well,
Yeah,
sure, it didn't.
I was awake all night.
And,
Yeah.
So often people think, oh, essential oils don't work for me, and sometimes, you know,
just try
like
something
Cindy
different.
said, you just need maybe to try a different oil, and that's going to be a little more right for your system.
But to answer your question, yes, there are oils that help reduce scarring.
Yeah.
And it's not coming to the top of my head. What?
Well,
How about you?
I mean, helichrysum is really a good one. It's a little pricier because of we'll probably get into this, why some essential oils are so inexpensive and why more expensive. But helichrysum's really good. Lavender can help, frankincense. And if anyone has a real specific, you know, really just tenacious scar they're really trying to get rid of, I'm not going to remember the recipe off the top of my head, but Dr. Susan Lawton is this wonderful, she's 80 years old, she's a nurse, a basal cell chemist, clinical psychologist, and she just started a secret Facebook group and wrote a book. So I just think of Joyce when I think of Dr. Lawton, because it's like, you know, confident woman and just
Superwoman. Yes.
yeah, and you can keep on going. But anyway, she helped me with a gentleman who actually had been disabled he hadn't worked for, gosh, a year and a half or 2.5 years because of scar tissue that had ended up being created in his wrist following a spider bite. Actually, it was right hand, and he was right-handed, but a spider bite, which they thought was a spider bite. I guess it was misdiagnosed. They went exploratory surgery twice, and the pain just got worse and worse. And it ended up that it was a combination of 4, and I know geranium was part of it, and maybe frankincense, and I'd have to
But
look
these
up.
are things that we can look up, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
Absolutely.
I just want to. There are a lot of things to cover, and we're not going to have enough time. So we're going to make sure people know how to reach you. I'll ask you that in a minute. But I did want to ask you a couple things. I want to make sure we get in. I noticed on some oils that you can actually consume them as part of a drink or something that you take into your mouth, and some say not for oral use. So
This is huge.
okay, so that has to do with how they're made and where they're
Right.
sourced. So briefly, can you just touch on that?
Go ahead, you can start.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll try to be brief.
Yeah, because I want to.
So,
We have.
yeah.
I just want to make sure we don't run out of time.
Yeah, so this is so very, very important. So there's so many oils out there, you know, you see them everywhere, but if something is meant for ingestion, it's going to tell you on the bottle how to ingest it. And, you know, the oils we use actually have a supplemental fact label, and that's, you know, then that it actually, the FDA will only allow people to put that on their bottles when they have been tested to the degree required for ingestion.
And just so that we know, there are many brands out there that
Yeah.
are good quality, so we're not
Yeah.
getting into the brands themselves, but
Yeah.
I want to hear what specifically how can I tell it's a good brand? What would be
So-
on the label?
So if it's like a lemon or an orange, something that you consume in your daily life, and it says for external use only, you know that that is not a brand one that you want to ingest. And Cindy, you often make the point, like when you put your oils in the diffuser, if they aren't good enough quality to ingest, do I really want to be taking them into my body through
They're
my
still going
respiratory?
into
They're going to
you.
get into my
Absolutely. People think, okay, well, I'll use the name brand oils, if I want to ingest them. And by the way, you can also put them in a veggie cap or a gel cap, gelatin cap. Yes, you can get an empty capsule, and as long as it says on the back, as long as you have the supplemental facts, yes, you can use it. And there is a limit to how much oil you can put in your body a day.
Do you want to have organic? Does that matter?
Because essential oils, there's two things you want to look for. One is, are they tested by independent laboratories? So, whatever company you're using, you'll be able to get that information. Are they, tested by independent labs? So it's not that company saying, we have these wonderful oils, but as another testing lab actually shown, yes, these are completely pure, and these are of a therapeutic quality. And then where they're sourced is a big deal, because it's just like we were discussing the other day, if you're going to have
Eileen
an
has the
orange,
best analogy ever.
well, I can't take credit for it, but somebody say, really, if you're going to have an orange, do you want one grown in Maine or do you want one grown in Florida? And it's like, I think I might like the Florida orange, might taste a little better, right? So it's really important that when you're if you're looking for something to be really effective, we want the healthiest plant, which will provide the most therapeutic oil. So when you're looking at that, if a company actually sources where they can find the healthiest plant in the world, you're going to get, like with my allergies, I needed lavender, those properties that are really high concentration to be effective.
And since we use so little of it, really the price isn't the best gauge, because the quality within it is important.
Exactly.
Believe it or not, we're already getting low on time. So I want to make sure, I had a fun question of just asking you what is one of the most interesting uses of essential oil, Cindy, that you've had.
My most interesting story is I'm the only one in my family, my siblings, who is into essential oils, and everybody else is very skeptical. And I have a sister who suffers from vertigo. She was scheduled to go to a bridal shower, and she called. She said, I can't go. She said, my vertigo is really bad this morning. And I said, would you allow me to bring you over a sample? She said, yeah, sure. And probably one of the most skeptical people I know called me and said, Cindy, my vertigo is gone.
Wow.
And I thought, well, I know. I wasn't surprised, but she was surprised.
That's wonderful. Eileen, what about you?
Probably a little guy that I had. He was the first non-friend, family, acquaintance, whatever. But anyway, a little person who had been diagnosed with autism. His grandmother was raising him. It was taking her anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to put him to bed at night. And she's like, is there anything I can try? And I'm like, well, I just started, kind of exploring these. Are you open? And she's like, of course, I'll try anything. And in that case, it was having him smell a little frankincense. She put a little dab behind the neck, and then vetiver, which is a very grounding, thick oil, but went behind the knees, very, very calming oil. And the next day, she calls me and she's like, I want to bathe him in this. And I'm like, no, less is more. And but 20 minutes to put him to sleep.
Yeah.
And what was really cool about that was over the period of a few weeks, he could actually just smell the frankincense, like it was actually shifting brain chemicals. And he was also becoming more calm during the day. So that was really, really a cool thing.
That's beautiful. I want to make sure people know how to reach you. You have a Facebook page, Cindy?
I do, and it's called Essential Oils with Cindy Kilday.
Okay, and a website?
My website it's a little confusing. Eileen and we sell the same oils, so that's...
Well, just say the website.
All right, it's my.doterra.com /Cindy Kilday 2.
All right, C-I-N-D-Y.
C-I-N-D-Y-K-I-L-D-A-Y.
Okay. And how do people reach you?
So I have a website, or Facebook website, I guess, Eileen Ladwig Essential Wellness.
Okay.
And my other site is mydoterra.com/Eileen M. Ladwig /
Okay. And as we get to the end of the show, we have about 3 minutes left, maybe a little bit less than that. I'd like to ask Cindy, what are the top 3 things does it take for you to be totally well?
I'm going to say I'm going to combine sleep and exercise because I think they kind of go hand in hand. I think if sleep and exercise is my number one. Spirituality is right up there. I think spirituality is important. My faith is important to me, and when I'm spiritually well, I'm well. And time with my family.
Yeah.
That just makes me happy. Yeah.
Connecting. Eileen, what about you? What top 3 things does it take you to be totally well?
Yeah, I ditto. Really, people, relationships, that is, I really feel like that's what life is all about. And, really, really quality time with people, but then also some alone time. I'm a very social person, but also, I'll be like, oh, I really need to just take a walk in the woods and, be myself. So, it's kind of times. And then, fresh water, fresh food, all those wonderful things, and sleep. And exercise. I love to move, and that's all been good. And, and the more I hate to say essential oils, but yeah, I think essential oils have definitely enhanced all of these different parts of our life. So
I agree.
And they've helped you
good.
eliminate things that, or replace things that you maybe thought we needed because of marketing, or somebody told us we need this.
Absolutely.
And when you find out that we don't. Yeah. Is there anything that I didn't ask today? I know there's tons to talk about. We could do 10 shows on essential oils. Anything you want to add in at the end here?
We were talking about how are they made, and I know what an essential oil is. They're extracts from plants, barks, seed, leaves, and people should really know how they're made. They're usually cold distilled or steam distilled.
Right, steam
Right?
distilled. Or cold pressed from the rind for a lot of the citrus.
Exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
right.
And that has to do with the quality and potency.
Right.
Yes, and a lot probably has to do with the effectiveness, but again, we can't stress enough that the plant should be indigenous to the area that is, use indigenous plants. I mean, I can grow lavender in my backyard,
But where they grow best.
Exactly, exactly.
So it's about time to wrap up. So wellness advocates, Cindy Kilday, Eileen Ladwig, thank you so much for coming today and joining me on the Totally Well Show.
Thanks for having us.
I've learned a lot, and now I can get more questions together for you.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. You're welcome.